Hello everybody and welcome to the channel. I'm Pastor Siri, a Lutheran pastor and a spiritual seeker. And today on my curriculum of love, we are talking about the lesson where we're learning to love all the parts of ourselves, even the shadow, even the stuff that some people say is bad. Well, let's figure it out. Take a listen. All right, so one of the things Christianity has been really bad about is helping us to love ourselves, period. It's also been really bad about helping us to love ourselves completely. There's often very much a conditional kind of love that you're only worthy if you're baptized, you're only worthy if you're a Christian, you're only worthy if. And then on top of that, some people see themselves as like a self-help project where they have to get better and better and better in order to be loved, in order to be okay, that they have to work on and exile these parts of themselves that aren't Christian, that aren't good enough. And I think that's wrong. I think it's destructive because we've had 2,000 years of people pretty much believing this. And what do we see? We see people who are very judgmental towards themselves and judgmental of others. Let me explain this a little bit more. So there is sort of a notion that we get, and it might be cultural, it might be biblical, it might be a combination of all of that, where we have this idea of what a Christian is supposed to act like. And there have even been certain denominations that say that you can demonstrate whether you're actually saved or not by your behavior. And so these people will actually do everything they can to behave in a certain way to sort of prove that they are actually saved. So what that does when you put yourself up against a standard of this is what it looks like. This is what it looks like to be good, to be on the right side of things, to be on the in crowd in order to be saved. Whether that is culturally like skinny and wealthy and pretty, or whether from a Christian perspective that is like loving and giving and completely selfless and never gets angry and forgives everybody, that is a template that is really hard to fit into. And so what we do to ourselves is we start to exile any of the parts within us that we start to see as not fitting in with the ideal. And this happens in a lot of ways. From the time we're very little, we get messages from our parents, we get messages from teachers, and even from other kids that tell us what about us is okay and what is not okay. And we start to not just adjust our behavior accordingly, adjust our appearance accordingly, adjust ourselves accordingly so that we can fit into what we're told to fit in, but the parts of us that we're acting and thinking and feeling a certain way do not go away. They get exiled. This has different names. Some people will call this the shadow, where it gets pushed back, where you don't see it, but it's still there. It's still a part of you. It's behind you in the darkness of your shadow, the unconscious. In IFS, internal family systems, we talk about you exile these parts of yourself that are not okay and do not belong in what's acceptable. But they don't go away. This has created even more problems. From Martin Luther to Paul with a thorn in his side to lots of mystics who've tried to pray away and beat away and plea away and spiritual practice their way out of the parts within themselves that they see as being bad, as being wrong. Some have even gone so far as to say that's the devil tempting them, that is actually evil. What happens when you start to take a part of yourself, a genuine feeling that's coming from somewhere legitimate, sexual desire, hunger, anger because you've been treated poorly, grief because stuff has happened in your life, fear, shame, guilt, even jealousy and envy, that if you actually investigate it is coming from some really legitimate places that need to be healed. But you take brokenness and you take vulnerability and you take what happened as a little child with your lack of experience and you demonize that messes you up. And that never goes away. So you're basically taking a part of yourself and you're trying to force it into submission. This is such classic patriarchy, of trying to control everything around you to shove and fit into this particular box, whether it's your body, your mind, your spirit, everything. And it doesn't work. It just causes so much damage. So again, in IFS, which has been super helpful for me, I mentioned this last week, I believe, where we talk about the true self, your child of God self. This part of you, it's the core of who you are, has like this umbilical cord attached to God. And it already is wise, already compassionate, already clever and creative and collaborative. And when I've gone into my IFS sessions, what happens is you find a part of yourself that is acting out, that's needing attention. And how that looks is like in your everyday life, you might find yourself like really upset with somebody or upset with a situation, and you feel like it's a little bit overblown. You're like, okay, something's going on. I'm the problem. I got to figure out what's going on. And instead of beating yourself up and going, I shouldn't feel that way. I shouldn't feel that way. Well, guess what? You do. You do feel that way. So why not figure out why you feel that way? If we believe that our intentions at the root of all of our feelings are actually not evil, but they're very logical, let's figure it out. And that's exactly what happens in my IFS sessions when I get into myself through meditation, and then I meet this part of me that needs attention. It could be a part that's very afraid of criticism. It could be a part that wants to overeat. It could be a part that wants to undereat. It could be a part that has a lot of anger and resentment towards somebody. Whatever it is, when I call forth that part of me without judgment, and I actually feel compassion for this part, I'm like, oh, she's trying so hard. And I listen to her. She tells me everything I need to know about where this is coming from. And it's usually coming from some deep fear, something that's logical and rational. And it may not be real. It may not be a real fear. It may not be something that needs to carry on, but unless it's brought to consciousness, it's not going to go away. In my lesson, I talk about the story of Jesus going in the desert for 40 days. And the traditional understanding of this story is that Jesus faces the devil, and the devil tempts him with all these things. And Jesus is like, get away from me, Satan. And it's very dramatic, and Satan runs away for an opportune time. Fine. But I want to sort of reimagine this story in a way that's, what if Jesus went out to meet the parts of himself that could derail his ministry? Now, the Satan means in Aramaic, that which you cannot see, that which you're not looking at, that which you're afraid to look at. So it's not necessarily an entity that's coming to get you off course. It could very well be the shadows that are a part of you that are screaming for understanding, that are screaming for attention. And yes, they may seem pretty bad at first. The more we shove a certain thing off to the side, the more distorted it might come rearing back. This is why I believe people who have the most rigid form of, like, let's say sexuality, in certain purity culture Christian circles, where women have to be very, very constrictive of their bodies and their thoughts around sexuality, but men too also have to fit into, like, okay, you don't have sex before marriage, and being gay is wrong, and this is wrong, and that is wrong. The most repressive and restrictive systems around sexuality often have some of the worst, most painful, abusive situations as well, because they've shoved so many things in the shadow that it comes rearing back at them. This is why you will have pastors who are yelling about gay marriage and about gay sex, and they're just like really, really focused in on that, and all of a sudden they get arrested for child pornography, abusing a 15-year-old in their congregation. Dude, that's not okay. You're harming someone. But when you're taking a whole part of what makes you human and demonizing it, exiling, oppressing it, suppressing it, restricting it, it's gonna come out sideways. It's gonna feel distorted because it's yelling for attention. It's like that pendulum. The more you pull it to one side, the more it's gonna swing over to the other side. So there really is something to the liberal idea of like talking about and making more things okay, because when there's room and space for you to look at something without shame, you can have a much healthier conclusion about what is actually good for you. When nothing is off the table, you actually might have a much better idea of going, okay, that would harm me and that would harm someone else. I'm not going to do this, but this is okay. And this makes me happy and I'm okay with this. This is okay. So back again to IFS. So when I greet this part and I listen without judgment, because the self does not have judgment, which is also the hugest, like, ding, 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 that if my self doesn't have judgment toward this part, no matter how bad the part might initially seem, how much does God not have judgment for us as well? That true self, that self within me, is a piece of God. It was a huge aha moment for me to realize that when God is approaching us the way myself is approaching my parts, with curiosity, with tenderness, and like, hey, you okay, buddy? What do you need? Like, you're struggling. How can I unburden you from the struggle? It does not work to just go, I cast out your evil upon you. We don't do well with that. If you were to come up to me and call me evil and call me demonic and call me all sorts of names, and I'm just like not going to listen to you ever. And even if you're my friend and you sit down with me and I feel like you're being really judgy with me, I'm going to close down and I'm not going to be vulnerable with you. I'm not going to tell you what's on my heart. But if you sit down with me, whatever I'm going through, and I can tell you're on my side, I can tell that you're ready to understand, I can tell that you have so much grace for me, you're like, girl, that is okay. Oh, I get it, girl. I'm going to tell you more and more and more and more and more. I'm going to open myself up and I'm going to be vulnerable because I'm going to feel that sense of emotional safety. That's what the self does for parts. That's the beauty of IFS. And because I've experienced that for myself and I've experienced how healing that is, I no longer can subscribe to this idea that we have to demonize parts of ourselves, or that if we're having intrusive thoughts or we're having really negative bad thoughts about something, or we want to do something bad, that's like the devil and it's demons. What if it's just a part of us that is deeply hurting and needs attention? And it's only when you turn your attention lovingly and without judgment on that part of you, you're actually going to find out if that's true. You're going to find out if it is a part of you, or, I don't know, bad energies or something like that. You're not going to find out until you non-judgmentally, with love and compassion and tenderness, speak and say, what's going on? Tell me, what do I need to know about you? How can I help you? So, loving yourself in a really fundamental way means giving yourself permission to love every single part of you. The jealous, the envious, the bitchy, the immature, the grumpy, the exhausted, the overwhelmed, the lazy, the fat, the this, the that. Like anything the world has told you is not okay to be, that's the part you need to love. Because we're not just loving the child of God's self that we wish we could be all the time once we get rid of all of these defects. So much of patriarchal religion has focused on getting rid of defects to get to that true child of God's self. But I believe in a matriarchal faith and a matriarchal spirituality, the feminine side of spirituality, the way out is through. If we want to embody who we are in our more fullness, we have to unburden all those parts, those beautiful little parts of what ails them. And then they get to be part of our team in a good and healthy way. You have to unburden them. You have to love them too. And then when you love them too and invite them, you become more. You have access to more within yourself. And that to me is such a really powerful thing, is that we no longer are a narrow definition that someone told us to be, but we've discovered for ourselves who we are. So if I get in touch with my anger, and I've really learned from my anger, I also know when it's appropriate to express that anger and how I can do that without it just taking over me or me pushing it away. Same thing with all my other emotions. I become friends with it, and in becoming friends with it, I learn and it transforms into a useful ally. That's what loving yourself completely does. Learning, sitting down with those emotions, feeling those emotions, being curious, not judging, and that is a practice. So the practice can be many things. When we're starting to feel overwhelmed with an emotion, a thought, a feeling that we feel is too much, bad, whatever, journaling back and forth with the part, really coming to it with curiosity and going, what do you want me to know here, can be really helpful. Some people will, I've tried this before, where you sit in two chairs. One represents your true self, the other represents that part, and you go back and forth, and again, you have a conversation, and it's actually pretty amazing what you can get out of that. If you have someone who can guide you through an IFS meditation, that can be really, really helpful. But just what I mentioned before of journaling can be really powerful. And still even more powerful is just giving yourself permission to love you as you are. Not as you should be, not as you could be, not as you will be in 10 years. To love yourself as you are. I was with some girlfriends last weekend. We've been friends for over 30 years. And we had this question of like, what would you tell your 18-year-old self? And above everything, what we said is like, you're doing the best you can. Girl, you're great. You're doing great. Keep going. You're doing the best you can, and trust yourself, love yourself, honor yourself. When I was 18, I felt so much like everyone else had things figured out except for me. I felt so much like I was in such a trying, competing. It was a really hard place to be. And I didn't love myself completely. I didn't trust myself. I felt like only if I am something other than myself, a better version of me, would I be okay. And when I look back on that, like that could be my kid, right? 18 years old, 30 years later, I feel so much compassion for her. And I want to tell her, no, she's awesome as she is. She's still in formation. I'm still in formation. But that love for who you are now, as you are, is so helpful for the whole picture. So I hope that's helpful for you. I'd love to hear your thoughts, your comments below, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.